Historical chronicles depict Claudius II Gothicus as a figure possessing all the necessary qualities to succeed Emperor Gallienus in greatness. Indeed, for a significant period, he held the position of the second most important person in the empire, serving as the ruling monarch's right-hand man. However, contrary to expectations, his own imperial reign proved surprisingly short, leaving behind a trail of both triumphs and bitter defeats. While it was under his rule that Spain, once separated from Rome, was reintegrated into imperial territories, his strategic decisions led to the fateful declaration of independence by the Palmyrene Empire and its powerful queen Zenobia from the authority of the Eternal City. Regarding his demise, Claudius is perhaps one of the rarest figures among 3rd century emperors to have avoided a violent death, so characteristic of that turbulent era. His life was cut short by the plague of Cyprian, a relentless epidemic that had previously claimed the short-lived life of another emperor, Hostilian. It is also interesting to note that Claudius is believed to be a relative, or even a direct ancestor, of the legendary Constantine the Great. This circumstance leads modern historians to approach the reliability of ancient sources with particular scrutiny and a degree of skepticism, as many of them seem to exert immense effort to portray his life and career in an exceptionally laudatory, almost panegyrical light. Nevertheless, one undeniable fact remains: he was one of Emperor Gallienus's most trusted and influential generals. To avoid confusion with another, earlier emperor from the Julio-Claudian dynasty, this Claudius, whose full name was Marcus Aurelius Valerius Claudius, is now commonly referred to as Claudius II. He was born in distant Illyricum on May 10, 214 AD, and his path to the heights of power began long before his ascension to the throne. While it is evident that Gallienus placed complete trust in Claudius throughout his reign, it remains a mystery how this distinguished military commander became so close to the emperor, serving as his indispensable advisor and general. There is a suggestion that his career began within the inner circle of Valerian, Gallienus's predecessor. It is possible that Claudius replaced Crinitus when Valerian arrived on the Danube in the fateful year 256 AD. He was likely appointed a dux at that time, a military commander responsible for the entire Danubian frontier, a colossal and strategically vital post. However, his military talent was later needed elsewhere. He was dispatched to reinforce Gallienus's positions in Gaul when hordes of Franks and Alemanni descended upon imperial territories, threatening their integrity. From that point until the very end of Gallienus's reign, Claudius consistently remained by the emperor's side, unfailingly demonstrating his loyalty and outstanding abilities, which solidified his reputation as one of the most reliable and skilled generals. Emperor Gallienus's life ended outside the walls of Mediolanum, Milan, in September 268 AD. According to some sources, in his final moments, he allegedly officially designated Claudius as his successor. The army promptly assented to this choice, solemnly proclaiming Claudius as the new emperor. The empire's supreme legislative body, the Senate, confirmed the legion's decision, bestowing upon the new ruler the title of Augustus. The senators, many of whom harbored deep contempt for the deceased emperor, openly rejoiced at the news of his death. Historical accounts differ in detail, but the outcome remained unchanged: the siege of Mediolanum was lifted, and Aurelius lost his life. Proponents of Gallienus's former regime were either dismissed from their posts or put to death in the capital. Gallienus's last surviving son was also killed around this time, which apparently distressed Claudius himself, who immediately intervened, urging the senators to show moderation and restraint towards Gallienus's supporters. Soon after these events, the newly appointed emperor marched on Rome, seeking to solidify his position and secure the full support of the Senate. Throughout his reign, he appears to have maintained very warm and cordial relations with this influential state institution. Gallienus, by contrast, faced sharp condemnation from the Senate because he had significantly curtailed their powers, stripping them of the right to command military units and govern vast imperial provinces. The senators sought to completely erase Gallienus's memory from the annals of history, ordering the destruction of all his statues and the removal of his name from official public records. However, Claudius, contrary to these sentiments, insisted on the posthumous deification of his predecessor. Although the Roman Senate may not have approved of many decisions, Emperor Claudius did not alter or revoke the political policies adopted by his predecessor Gallienus. The empire, which came under his rule, remained in deep chaos and fragmentation. 8 years prior, Gaul, Britain, and Spain had broken away from central authority, forming their own state entity, while in the east, Palmyra, after the capture of Emperor Valerian, asserted its hegemony. It operated virtually independently, although formally maintaining recognition of Rome's supreme authority. Meanwhile, Gothic tribes continued to devastate the Balkan Peninsula, their despair and hunger intensifying after the failure of their mass migration. In 269 AD, Claudius took decisive action, sending the future Emperor Aurelian to the Balkans to deal with the threat of the Gothic invasion. This appointment effectively meant replacing Macrian, a general chosen by Gallienus. If one assumes that Aurelian and Claudius were part of a conspiracy against Gallienus, then Macrian's removal appeared to be a necessary precaution on the part of the new emperor. Furthermore, the prefect of Egypt, Tenagino Probus, was confirmed in his post and received direct orders to clear the eastern Mediterranean of widespread piracy, which was critically important for maritime routes. Heraclianus, another military commander, was dispatched to the east with a mission to restore Roman dominance, which included engaging in military actions against Sasanian Persia and subduing the ambitious Palmyrene queen Zenobia. And, apparently, his efforts met with partial success, as it was after these events that Claudius was honored with the title Parthicus Maximus. Zenobia's husband, Odenathus, showed moderation, as he verbally acknowledged Rome's supreme authority and acted formally on behalf of Emperor Gallienus. However, Zenobia herself displayed far greater independence and resolve. It is presumed that she even concluded her own peace treaty with the Persian Empire, aiming to secure advantageous trade relations for Palmyra with the eastern regions. By early 270 AD, relations between the Roman Empire and the Palmyrene kingdom had significantly deteriorated. This occurred because Zenobia had effectively declared her state's complete independence and rapidly conquered vast territories in Syria, reaching the very border with Egypt. Soon after, a significant portion of Anatolia also fell under Palmyra's undeniable influence. At the same time, in the province of Egypt, the general Probus successfully dealt with the problem of piracy in the region. However, he soon faced a much more serious threat, as a significant portion of the tribes inhabiting Roman North Africa rebelled. This forced him to launch a large-scale military campaign, which in turn left Egypt virtually defenseless, a circumstance Zenobia was quick to exploit. Meanwhile, the new Roman emperor and a significant portion of his army were redeployed to Thrace to confront the Gothic tribes, which left Italy itself extremely vulnerable. The Alemanni and Juthungi immediately took advantage of this situation, invading the Apennine Peninsula in 269 AD. Previously, these tribes had been somewhat subdued after several defeats inflicted by Gallienus, who subsequently concluded peace treaties with them. There were three probable reasons for their renewed hostility. First, after Emperor Gallienus's assassination, they might have considered the treaties concluded with him null and void. Second, Gallienus's second wife, Pippa, supposedly from the Juthungi tribe, may have been killed along with her husband, which would demand vengeance from her kin. However, the most likely reason was that the new Emperor Claudius ceased the payment of subsidies that Gallienus had previously agreed upon. Regardless, the Germanic tribes were fully prepared for a large-scale invasion of Italian lands. Emperor Claudius swiftly gathered his troops, although most of the main Roman army was apparently in the Balkans, having joined Aurelian. Claudius likely had the elite cavalry corps established by Gallienus and moved north to block the barbarians' path through the Alps. He successfully halted their invasion near Lake Garda, not far from the city of Verona. After this decisive victory, Claudius adopted the honorary title, Germanicus Maximus. Spain, newly reintegrated into the empire's vast holdings, faced a number of internal difficulties. During this period, Postumus, the ruler of the Gallic Empire, suffered a series of military setbacks against Gallienus's forces, which significantly undermined his authority and weakened his position, making his throne vulnerable to challenges. Indeed, by 269 AD, Postumus found himself embroiled in a fierce civil war against Laelianus. In response to the situation, Claudius dispatched Julius Placidianus at the head of a military contingent to southern Gaul. This operation allowed Rome to regain control over territories located east of the Rhone River. It is known that Claudius adhered to a strategic principle. He believed that internal usurpers posed a personal problem for the emperor, whereas foreign invasions directly threatened the state. Therefore, he decided to focus his efforts on eliminating the external threat before resolving the conflict with Postumus. Earlier, in 260 AD, when Emperor Gallienus was distracted by an invasion of Italy, Germanic tribes of Franks invaded imperial territory. This circumstance left the provinces of Gaul, Spain, and Britain without adequate defense, effectively leading to their secession from central authority and the formation of their own Gallic Empire under Postumus. Some of these Frankish detachments, exploiting the chaos, settled in Spain, establishing a kind of pirate state that posed a constant threat. Postumus was never able to effectively deal with this serious problem. As a result, recognizing Postumus's inability to ensure stability and security, the Spanish provinces decided to return to the protection of the Roman Empire, officially declaring their loyalty to Emperor Claudius and the eternal city of Rome. After the triumphant victory at Lake Garda, the exact direction of Emperor Claudius's subsequent movements remains a subject of historical debate. However, it is highly probable that he initially intended to consolidate his position in Italy, continuing military operations against the Alemanni. There were plans to send his brother, Quintillus, with strong reinforcements to Aurelian, who was in the Balkans at the time. But at a critical moment, literally at the last minute, Claudius re-evaluated his decision. His concerns were related to the possibility that Aurelian, with both armies at his disposal, might proclaim himself emperor, challenging his authority. This is why Claudius chose to personally lead the campaign to the Balkans, leaving his brother Quintillus in command of the troops fighting on Italian soil. There is also a view that Aurelian may have deliberately avoided a decisive confrontation with the Goths, aiming to preserve the integrity of his army for a potential act of usurpation. This hypothesis gains particular credence when considering his outstanding military record. Aurelian was recognized as one of the most brilliant commanders ever to serve Rome. The Gothic invasion, incidentally, had already suffered a crushing defeat in the significant Battle of Nisus during Emperor Gallienus's reign. In light of this, Aurelian's seeming inability to definitively crush the remaining Gothic forces could well have raised certain suspicions regarding his true motives. However, it is worth noting that the Goths were trapped in the impregnable Haemus Mountains, where they gradually suffered from starvation. In such a context, Aurelian's decision not to engage in direct battle but to allow the enemy to be worn down may not have been a sign of weakness, but rather a very sensible and strategically sound move. Emperor Claudius's sudden death, which occurred during his eastern campaign, shook the Roman state. The cause of his demise was the plague of Cyprian, which struck the ruler unexpectedly. Soon after this tragic event, in the city of Sirmium, the late Claudius's brother, Quintillus, was hastily proclaimed emperor by soldiers loyal to Claudius. This military decision was promptly confirmed by the Roman Senate, seemingly ensuring the new ruler's legitimacy. However, not all factions agreed with this choice. The troops under the command of the ambitious Aurelian categorically refused to recognize Quintillus. Instead, they nominated and declared their own commander as emperor, thereby openly challenging Quintillus's claims to the throne. Quintillus's reign proved extremely fleeting, lasting only a few months, and historical sources preserve regrettably little information about his activities as head of state. Furthermore, it is believed that he never had the opportunity to formally enter Rome, the capital of the empire. The circumstances of Quintillus's death remain shrouded in mystery and are a subject of debate among researchers. For instance, the largely questionable Historia Augusta claims that Quintillus was known as an excessively harsh military commander, and this character trait led to his demise at the hands of his own soldiers. At the same time, some historians put forward the version of his death in a bloody battle against Aurelian's forces, while others lean towards the hypothesis that he voluntarily ended his own life by slitting his veins. Nevertheless, it remains an undeniable fact that after his death, Aurelian ascended to the imperial throne, bringing an end to Quintillus's brief era. Claudius's reign, preceding Quintillus, was surprisingly short and, frankly, did not bring significant achievements as emperor. Although Spain was reintegrated into the Roman Empire, This event, in the view of many, was more a result of Posthumus's failure than a direct success or strategic genius of Claudius himself. Furthermore, his seemingly tactless or insufficiently diplomatic handling of the powerful Zenobia, Queen of Palmyra, provoked her open rebellion, which created a new serious threat to the eastern provinces. Nevertheless, prior to his ascension to the throne, Claudius distinguished himself as an outstanding general and an unparalleled cavalry commander during Emperor Gallienus's reign. He enjoyed genuine affection and respect among both common soldiers and the officer corps. It was he who achieved a decisive victory over the Alemanni and Juthungi tribes invading Italy, thereby averting a serious threat to the heart of the empire. Had it not been for the fateful plague of Cyprian, which cut short his life, Claudius might have proven himself no less capable and influential a ruler than figures like Gallienus or Aurelian. However, his reign was unfortunately too brief for historians to render a definitive judgment on his true merits and potential as emperor.